Two Worlds, One Family by Dragon Translator. Chapter 41. She's Not You. Hiccup did not answer right away. It was a serious question, and did not deserve a quipped reply. Hiccup now realized why his father was silent for several moments when asked a question that held such weight in their words. Even if the chief already knew what he was going to do, as Hiccup now suspected his father did most of the time, Stoic would hold his words. Fish legs actually seemed to calm as the silence wore on, especially when Hiccup's brow furrowed, and his fingers began to tap his chin. "We will continue on as we are," Hiccup said, lowering his head. "If Heather is here to lure us into a trap, we'll deal with that when it occurs. Right now, we don't change how we treat her just because we suspect her of wrongdoing. Alvin will not make us change who we are." Fishlegs took a deep breath. "Okay, Hiccup. Thank you." Hiccup smiled and tipped his head. Fishlegs' eyes flickered between Hiccup and Astrid, and Hiccup saw a smile cross the teen's face. "This has done wonders for you," Fishlegs said. Hiccup tilted his head. "Huh?" Fishlegs grinned. "Your courtship," he clarified. "It has done wonders for you. In Gida's house, after we all ate together, you were still reserved. After the Red Death and you awoke, you still remained slightly closed off, long before the other dragons started acting up. Now, you're open. It's good to see." Fishlegs paused, then tapped Meatlug between her ears. The dragon gave Hiccup a small bow, then rose into the air. "We're going to get some food and let you two talk. I think Astrid wants to." They left before Hiccup could respond. He heard a shuffle, and turned in time to see Astrid dismount Stormfly and walk away a couple of steps. Hiccup quickly dismounted Toothless. He blinked when Sharpshot hopped onto the saddle. Stormfly sat down, and Toothless lay down beside her slowly. All three dragons stared at Astrid. Hiccup frowned, but walked over to his intended. She stood in silence, staring out at the ocean. Hiccup waited at her side. In one fluid motion that had him blinking at first, Astrid spun him to face her. Before he could ask, she lunged. Her arms caged his body. One hand slid up, gripping the back of his neck, though careful not to pull or pinch skin. The other hand slipped behind his back, ensnaring his fur vest and tunic, and did not seem inclined to let him go. Her lips seemed bent on devouring his. Hiccup moaned, his arms grasping and pulling her close. He returned the kiss with the same intensity and pressure. His chest began to scream for breath. He ignored it. He did not want to leave Astrid's arms ever. Her lips moving across his tasted sweeter than anything he had ever known. Her fingers kneading into his hair and continuously gripping his vest and tunic caused his heart to swell, and feelings he had no name for to cascade over him. He did not know how long it was before Astrid pulled back, sucking in air like a drowning woman who just broke the water's surface. Hiccup found himself not really caring about the time. He wanted a repeat performance. He wanted to experience those feelings again, even if he had no idea what they were. Astrid looked up from where she had lowered her gaze upon halting the kiss. Hiccup felt pride, and more unknown feelings washed over him. Astrid's hair, though still braided, looked slightly mussed by a hand with a mind all its own. Her lips looked swollen. Hiccup saw a gleam he could not name flash in her eyes, and felt an echoing of something pull from within himself. Hiccup pulled her closer, unable to resist the urge to do so. Astrid laid her head upon his left shoulder. Hiccup meant to let his chin rise to rest upon her shoulder, but he froze. Lips pressed against the side of his neck, in different places, lingering between each. His chin lifted higher without his consent. Astrid hummed, the sound echoing in his soul and crashed through his body. 3 loud dragon roars had them spinning, back to back, and weapons drawn. Nothing bounced at them. Hiccup jerked and felt Astrid do so as well. Hiccup faced the dragons, eyebrow lifted. Stormfly chittered and winked at Hiccup. Sharpshot regarded both with an expression of equal parts pride and exasperation. Toothless, somehow, turned his normal gummy smile into a smirk. Hiccup grunted but sheathed the sea axe. He stepped away and turned. "Are you okay?" he asked Astrid softly, noting she had her arms crossed loosely over her chest. Astrid did not answer right away. Instead, she stared at him, a pleased and proud smile upon her face. Her arms lowered, and she moved over to him. Hiccup glanced at the dragons as Astrid wrapped her arms around him. They did not move, and she did not start to kiss him again. Hiccup was both relieved and saddened. He enjoyed that kiss, but he knew another would cause their chaperones to roar again. Hiccup lifted his arms and closed Astrid's frame. She hummed, and a small echo of the feelings from before bounced through him. But Astrid did nothing more, and the feeling subsided. "Thank you," she whispered. "For?" "You didn't try to give Heather water, and you made her ride with Gita." Hiccup blinked as Astrid tucked her head into his shoulder and into his neck, though she did not press her lips against his skin. Hiccup kept his sigh within him, choosing instead to look at the dragons as if they could answer his many questions. They just stared at him, but made no motion to speak or move from their spots. "Astrid?" "I read those runes, Hiccup. I saw the looks Heather gave you. I heard her voice when she thanked you for letting her stay. You didn't act any different, and you didn't fall all over her like the others did." Hiccup began, still not quite understanding what was going on. Astrid pulled back and looked at him. "You didn't see?" "See what?" "She was after you. Her questions to Gothi were about you. She kept looking at you. Her voice turned to sugar when she thanked you. She was flirting. It was subtle, but it was there." Hiccup frowned and then shook his head. He released Astrid and stepped back enough that he could frame her face in his hands. "She's not you, Astrid. Anyone trying anything like that will not get a response from me, no matter who they are. I trust you and admire you too much for that. You stood by me after meeting Toothless, even with all the training we received about dragons being the bane of our existence. You promised to keep Toothless safe. You risked your life to protect me after Dad scared Hookfang. You helped me defeat that monster. You came when I woke up. You remained by me after the wild dragon started acting up. And you have been at my side while I'm still trying to process everything that has happened, and that the dragons call me their alpha. Even when we were in Gothi's home, you stood by me. You left the tribe and crossed a barrier that hurt Snotlout to be with me. No one else has done any of that." Astrid smiled, placing her hands over his. She shifted to press a kiss to his palm. Hiccup hummed. She looked at him. He pulled her close, his lips slanting over hers, and his hands sliding between her neck and resting on her back. Hiccup felt her arms wrap around him, one hand burying into his hair and the other laying upon his back. Astrid returned the kiss. The dragons did not roar this time. Hiccup pulled away for several heartbeats later and placed his forehead against hers. The feelings he still could not name rose again, but not as intense as before. He began to suspect that had to do with the kiss being significantly less involved than the other. "You know, all good dragons and humans would take their intended home before midday meal was over." Hiccup lifted his head. Both he and Astrid looked over to find Toothless staring at them, the new gummy smirk upon his face. Hiccup and Astrid turned back to each other. Astrid snorted and gave him a quick peck on the lips before releasing him. Hiccup chuckled and caressed her cheek with his left hand before stepping away. Both moved to their dragons and climbed into their saddles. As they flew home, Hiccup found he could not stop staring at Astrid, and it seemed she could not stop staring at him. Good thing Toothless and Stormfly knew where they were going. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. Oh my friggin' god! That was more than a kiss, that was a freaking make-out session. And the fact that he said that. Honestly, we girls need to hear that sometimes. And oh my god. If a guy said something in that context towards me, I would be freaking swooning. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe and hit that bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, nut girls and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.